Raw slips off.
Hello, and welcome back to the finale of the Future Focus Admin. I am your host, Candice Birmingham from Admin Avenues, and with me is the queen herself, the tech savvy assistant, Jessica McBride. The crowd goes wild.
Cheers.
I can't believe this is the finale of season one. We actually did it. We did it.
We
did
did
a thing.
10 episodes. I was like, we'll do
I,
6. And you were like, we'll do 10. And I was like, oh, we'll do 10.
that's a high achiever. I saw this like meme the other day of like, well, it's not a meme, it was like a little clip of Paul Rudd and he's with someone and I can't remember what the context is, but they're like, look at us. What, did you think we'd be here? No, did you? No, but here we are. That's how I feel like
Here
we
we
are.
are.
So what I thought we would do is one, do a little recap of what we've covered for the first season, and just quickly just go through that because if someone's joined us on episode 10, welcome. There's 9 other episodes for you to enjoy. But we started off with just like the welcome to the Future Focus Admin, where we kind of just laid it out saying this is why we are doing the podcast, which to be honest, it was that Jess and I were going to do a podcast both, like each, and then we were like, well, let's do it together.
Well, let's be real here. Had you not been driving the bus, I never would have gotten around to doing the podcast. I would have just continued saying that I was going to start a podcast to anybody who would listen and then never actually go through with that. So let's thank you and your actual like skilled executive assistant level driving things forward, because
Yay to
without
being
you,
a
it
yay.
never would have been completed.
Oh, bless your cotton socks. So yeah, we did do it though, and we were just like, it was kind of also a little bit of a social experiment to see. We had both had interest in admin podcasts, but we both didn't find anything we kind of really like aligned with because when we're not going into the market wanting to learn from the podcast as such, like we're not listening to write notes. We were listening for conversational, we were listening for a bit of sass, we were listening for a bit of fun, and we just found everything was a bit too educational, so we kind of wanted to make it a bit more fun but also have some tips and tricks on what we've done in our experience. And as we've said the whole way through, and we'll say the whole way through our careers, we're experts on nothing, but we give our life experiences and what we've done both as admins and as business owners in the admin space. This is what's worked for us. It's how it's worked for us. And, you know, if that's helpful to you, cool. If it's not, no problem. But yeah, that was kind of the purpose of doing this. So it's been really fun. It's definitely had its challenges. Anyone who's made a podcast, I'll understand that. And because we have different time zones, it's thankfully, to Jess's credit, she's always tapped in on an evening, and I've been able to do it of a morning. And for her, God bless her, it's usually been a Sunday night, so that's a huge commitment on your behalf. On Sunday nights, I'm like, don't look at me, don't talk to me. So yeah, basically we started with F1 introducing what we're all about, and then we went through to being a strategic business partner. And then we went on to salary transparency, which actually
Where
I
we
got
have
some
to be.
emails about. Yeah, and people were like, oh, like, well done on actually bringing that up. But I really do feel so passionate about that, and I hate that word, but I haven't got a better word in my head right now, about discussing your salary. Like, I can't say it enough. Talk to your peers about it. You may find that you're being completely underpaid, or you might get a nice surprise and realize you're being like, you're in the bigger bracket and be like, yeah, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling valued. But yeah, so we do encourage you to talk about your salaries. We also talked about future proofing your career. This is both through, you know, upskilling, but also through the adoption of AI. There's just so much to be said on this, and Jess is way better in this space than I am. And we're actually going to talk about something to do with that at the end of this episode, because Jess has a new course, but we'll get to that. But we really do need to keep upskilling and keeping up to date with new tech and new ways of doing things, because this career after the pandemic has changed and will continue to change. And I'm going to put it out there, my personal opinion, thoughts, what's the word? Where you're future thinking, I don't know, is that admins are going to be the the role that is going to be taking over AI in businesses. I truly believe that we are going to be the ones that are in charge of implementing all these AI integrations, all this AI, um, updates, everything. That's going to be the role of the admin going forward. Also, the strategic business partner side of it, but I believe that admins' roles will end up being the ones that are running the AI side of
Yeah.
the business.
Yeah. And I
Um,
think it's important to keep in have to like be a coder to understand AI. Like you just need to be able to like have an eye for solving problems and recognizing what AI is capable of. And then you can always hire in the actual expert to like implement something, but it's having that bird's eye view and being able to see like, okay, this is where we could implement a solution is really what's going to help drive that forward.
yeah, and project managing it. Um, Prediction was the word. My prediction. Future thinking. Wow. So then we went into balancing work life and personal life as an admin. Something that I really think we are bad at as a profession. I think the younger generation are much better than us at it, but that's because they grew up in a way where they were taught, yeah, you do your business hours and you clock off and you have a life. Whereas we were like, no, you do what you do and you get the work done. You don't stop until it's done. Like we have been brought up with completely different work ethics. So I the other thing of that was setting boundaries and making sure that you put your mental health and physical health uh, first in this career. Otherwise, we're the number one spot for burnout.
It's
We're the
rough.
winners. We're the
Number one.
winners. Number one. Um, so then we went to navigating career transitions in the admin profession and talked about, there is no ceiling in admin. There is over 160 job titles in the admin sector. And it's not always going up, it's going sideways as well. So people look to go into project management or event management or become a um, consultant, or there's so many different ways that you can take your skills from being an admin into a different either admin role or into a completely different career. It's kind of like it's the career of, I don't know if anyone's ever worked at McDonald's. Whenever you go for like your first or second job, if they see that you've worked on McDonald's, they'll hire you because they know that the training is so good at McDonald's that you're already like you're brainwashed. If you've got if you've got time to lean, you got time to clean, and things like that. That you're pre-programmed to have a good work ethic and to get things done. So I think admins like that, in that if someone can see that you have worked in admin, they're like, okay, this person is organized, they know how to run things, they'll get stuff done. It's the career that can take you everywhere. And again, you don't have to have gone to university to do it or college.
No.
Then we talked about the impact of remote work on admin roles. And, everyone's going to have an opinion on this because it works for some people and it doesn't work for others. And that's okay no matter where you are in your career or where you want to place yourself in your career. It's just a matter of making it work for you because the options are there now. Um, if you're wanting to see how real this is, go and join a VA group, like a Facebook group or something like that, and you will just see, because people are like, oh, it's flooded, there's too many VAs. Go out there and see how many VAs there are and how many people are saying, hey, can someone else pick up this client? Like the work is there. If you want to go and trial doing your own VA business, go and have it, do the research, and you'll see that, like, as my example of that is when people say, oh, it's a flooded market or someone else is doing it. I'm like, okay, go and look in the bread aisle. How many different loaves of bread is there? Go and look at the cereal aisle. Like it it's all about what your preference is. There's plenty out there. It's just what your preference is and who you're going to align with. Um, And that's not just VA, that's just companies as well with remote work and whatnot. But then we talked about admin titles and how this can affect your career, both money wise, like if moving job titles for money, but also um, what else did we say with titles? We were saying, oh, that's right, there was that article that set everyone off because it had the word
Yeah,
assistant in
about
it.
stop calling them superheroes or something like that. Yeah.
And assistant, assistants don't want to be called assistants anymore.
That
And
was what it was.
yeah, and there was a huge hoo-ha in the uh, Facebook groups, admin groups over that one, especially anyone who has assistant in their company title. It was quite the bomb that was let off in our industry. Then we talked about advocating for yourself as an admin. So a kind of key takeaway from that is that no one's going to advocate for you. You have to advocate for yourself, and we gave some tips around that. And then that takes us to the finale. So we feel like we've covered a fair whack of ground of what's involved in being an admin professional, but we obviously want to hear your thoughts and opinions on what you thought of the podcast. If you loved it, please rate it and leave some commentary. It always helps with trying to get sponsors on board as well, the show going. Um, and then also, what you want in season 2. Do you want guests? Would you like us to have some guests, or are you happy with Jess and I just speaking shit? I think like we've already had so many people reach out and be like, "Hey, can I be on your podcast?" And some of them I'm like, absolutely. If we were to have guests, they would be really cool people to have on the
Mhm.
podcast. But then there's just randoms. Like, do you get hit up on LinkedIn of people being like, "Hi, I'd like to be on your podcast"?
No, thankfully
I,
not. Nobody, I guess maybe I'm not as approachable. I'm not sure.
I just get literally that. Hi, Candice. I'd like to apply to be on your podcast. No context, no nothing. Not hi, I'm an expert in wellness, or, you know, it's just, I find that
Fuck are you?
rude. No, I find it really
Yeah.
rude. I think it's like,
Uh,
oh, here I am. Great. You know, you should want me on your podcast. It's like, well, give me some context, dude. Or do your homework and see we haven't actually had any guests on the podcast. So,
yeah.
anyway, so we are going to read out the stories that people have sent in of their. Some of them are funny stories, some of them are horror stories of what they've been asked to do um, whilst being an admin professional. And so we've collected these from the whole 10 episodes that we've been doing this. And I think on the oh no, we won't have it on this one. But so basically, we've got a whole heap of them. Maybe I reckon I've always said this. We should publish a book with these stories in it. Like it would just be hilarious, even if it was just for admins. But anyway, we've chosen the top 10 that we thought were the most kind of ones that we should read out, or relatable, or a story. And so there's a bit of mix of different ones. But I wanted to give a little example. One of my ones was that I used to work for an exec who was single and an absolute player. And he had just moved to Sydney, and he was the fox about the hens in Sydney. Anyway, when he would get bored of these women of the day, women of the week, he would stop taking their calls and stop answering their message, and then he would leave his phone with me to have to deal with them, so that like when they rang, I would answer, and then they would be like, "Hi, it's Jessica," and my kind of standard line to them was like, "Yeah, you're not going to talk to him. If you kind of call again, you're gonna keep getting me." And then they were just like, "What?" I'm like, "If you think this is embarrassing for you, imagine how I
I'm
feel."
not getting paid
And
enough for this.
it was just the worst. And I'm all about girl code as well. So, like, I'm a big person on girl karma as well. So, if you treat girls bad, or you cheat, you know, you take someone else's man or things like that, you'll have the same like girl karma come back onto you. Um, So I would always say to these poor women, I'm just like, uh, I'm so sorry. Like, and usually they took pity on me and were just like, I'm so sorry that you have that job. But then others would just go nuts at me and just be like, put him on, put him on. I'm just like, oh, that's just, it's not going to happen. It's just, let's just end this. Let's end this for us both. It was the worst. But also, I kind of look back on it and I'm just like, why didn't you just say no? Like, why? I don't know why I did it. Didn't I don't know if I didn't feel empowered that I could say no, or I don't
No.
know. I just
Obviously, some
I
boundaries got skewed at some point, and, like, the
oh,
felt that he was like, "Oh, let
totally.
me have my assistant, like,
Oh,
field off
totally.
my ladies of the week." That's wild.
It was so, ugh, bad, and I hope nobody else has to do that, and if you do, I give you permission. Say no, absolutely no. Push the phone
Absolutely
off the
not.
desk. And
Not
this
my
is so long
problem.
ago, we had BlackBerries. All
Yeah,
right.
I don't
Do you
mm-mm.
want to tell one of your stories? And I know you haven't quite had the ass, but you've had some of those creepy
Yeah.
situations.
Honestly, okay, so like I said, my tenure as an executive assistant, not nearly as exciting as a lot of other people's. I just worked for some dude who just bought a company at some point in time. Like he was really just like super chill. One time he wanted me to get he wanted to have the mail forwarded, but he wanted like to have it forwarded to a place and they would open it, but he didn't want to update everybody the address with the company for the company. So I was like, that doesn't work, like because if we mail the mail, it needs to go to your address. And if you wanted to go to another address, you needed to change the address. So we cannot make this happen. It's not legal. It doesn't exist. Um, and so that was probably like my first time like ever telling a CEO no of like what you're asking for is not real.
Yep.
Um, but he was pretty chill for the most part. He like took it well, but like my past experiences are like when I worked in operations, getting like asked to like set up a fun and like hip workspace because they wanted to like make it a younger environment and like they of course like go to the only women in the office to like design this new space for them and I was like I work in sales operations. Like I'm
Let
not
me
an
guess.
interior
Beanbags?
designer. Hmm?
Beanbags?
I don't know. I got out of there
Cool
before
kids
anything
like
happened.
beanbags.
Yeah, yeah. Like coffee machines in there. Like, what do you think will like really make it feel like a nice space? Letting me work from home. That
Yeah.
is that is what would make me feel like it was a nice space. And definitely not
Yep.
like I said, if I never have to sit in an office space and listen to a sales team talk about their golf game again, like that's how I know that I'll have been successful in my business. Of like if I don't have to go back to doing that. Because I just
And
never want
ideally, braless and in stretchy pants.
I actually worked in public today. I had to wear a bra all day. It was rough.
My
It was a rough
God.
one. Yeah. I did get a
Oh,
lavender oat milk latte though, so that was pretty exciting.
okay. Well, that made up for
What
it.
an experience. But yeah, so really like I said, not too many like wild stories. There was one woman recently in one of the Facebook groups that I'm in that like her executive wanted her so I guess the New York Times is no longer available on Kindle and he's like mad about that and wants her to like find a way to like continue to get the New York Times on his Kindle. And it's like that's illegal. Like that's actually pirating. So I don't think I'll be doing that. And I was like, I know this is not helpful, but like I rolled my eyes so deeply in the back of my head when I read this because like what an ask and just that's just what they expect. Like just for you to just be like, okay, let me just go sideload an app and like figure out how to like get the New York Times on your like 1994 Kindle. Like I absolutely not. I'm not doing this for you.
But
Um
also, like, buy a new subscription. Like, it's really not that hard. Or even, like, get the company to buy a subscription and you get a, like, I, I said this to you before. Like, I once asked an executive of mine, I said, how are CEOs so rich? Obviously, apart from their salary. And he said, because they never spend their own money. He said everything that they get is through the company. All their subscriptions, all their internet, all their phone, everything is paid for through the company. So the minute they have to put their hand into their pocket and pay for themselves, they get all up in arms like this. But he particularly was the most ethical man ever. One, because our company was half owned by government, but he was just a stickler for making sure that everything that he wanted had to be put on his own personal card. So he's not an example of that. But I just remember thinking through my career history and thinking, yeah, actually, I do recognize that nothing, they didn't pay for anything. And I don't know, maybe it was part of their package or whatever. But yeah, I through my career, I don't know if things have changed now, but yeah, they were able to do that. But all right, shall we read off this list? So first one was, I was asked to drop what I was doing to go to a florist and buy a large bouquet of flowers. When I gave them to the exec who requested them, she then called all the employees over to my desk and presented them to me for all the work I've done on an event that week. So basically, she had me go out and buy my own flowers. This happened to me. And it was not only the most embarrassing thing because it, like, the what's it the kind of shock that I just went out and bought my own flowers, like that they couldn't actually be bothered to go and we literally had a flower shop downstairs, and they were like, just quickly duck out, and made out like it was like, I don't know, a quick last minute, thing. And then so I brought them up and I was kind of like, here you go, ta-da, are they okay? And then, yep, and then made that kind of everyone come around, and then it was my birthday, and then presented me with them on my birthday, and I was just like, are you kidding? Like, why? Why would you
So
do that?
when my mom died, I got flowers from the company, and I just remember thinking, I wonder who ordered these because it wasn't me. So, like, I'm like, I wonder who did this on my behalf. But I mean, I guess it could have been worse. They could have asked me to order my own mom's funeral flowers. That would have been quite the
Oh,
treat.
I think that would be unforgivable. But yes, who did order them?
I know.
It's just,
It's a mystery. I was like, they did a really good job. It must have been the person in HR.
yeah, yeah, they would have had to have been, or her assistant. Shouldn't say
Yep.
her, or their assistant.
It was
Okay,
her.
do you want to read the
All
next
right.
one?
Okay. I was called to go to my exec's house and wake up her oldest child because he wasn't answering her texts or calls. She gave me the house alarm code, gave me instructions of where to go in the house, and asked me to physically wake him up. WTF. Her son was a teenager, and I was worried he may have been busy, quote unquote. Luckily for me, he was just asleep. I think we were both traumatized from that experience. Yeah, no, thank you.
Can you imagine doing that to what? Like, one, I think I would just say no anyway. Like,
No.
what if, like, there's so many bits to that? Like, what if you broke a vase? What if there was a dog in the house? Like, what if, like, that's just such a crazy ask. Like,
I need you to know I didn't even have my executive's address. I did not have his home address. Like, that
I've
was the
always had,
man's boundaries.
right, I've always had the addresses of my execs,
Yeah.
and usually had been to all of their homes, but with them. Like, it's not, it's, unless you're a personal assistant, which again I've said is different to an executive assistant where
Yeah.
you're meant to be in the house. Um, yeah, I wouldn't do that, especially waking up a boy. Like, can you imagine? Like,
No.
that poor boy, that poor boy being like, why would you send your assistant over to wake me up? That's anyway. Okay, so next one was, there was an exec who was based in Australia and our office is in the US. Oh, here we go. He was coming to visit for a few days and had me buy a top of the line blender with a whole bunch of supplements and powders and rare ingredients to be delivered to his hotel so he could make his smoothies for each morning. He was totally from Bondi. He was only in town for 4 days and left all the items in the hotel when he checked out instead of having them shipped to our office or shipped back to Australia. He came back a few months later and asked for all the items to be reordered and delivered to his hotel again. When I asked if he needed help having them collected at the end of the stay, he said, no, we'll just order them again next time I'm in town. I mean,
Eat the rich.
again,
Eat the
like,
rich.
what? I actually remember one of my girlfriends, she was an executive assistant as well. Her boss was in the country. He had like moved here from I don't know somewhere, and like set up the apartment, was waiting for like his children to move over, so like, had kids stuff and everything. Within a month and a half, his contract got terminated and he got sent back to wherever, and there was just this apartment full of all brand new stuff. And we said, well, what like what do we do with it? And he was like, oh, you can just have it or sell it. So she literally got a whole apartment full of stuff that she wanted. There was like a brand new Dyson and like Smeg toaster and kettle and all that. Like she completely cleaned up. It was just, and then for everything else, she just put it on eBay. It was like, a brand new child's bed, brand new rocking horse. Like it was just insane. So she, not only did she get a whole house full of upgrades, but then she got the cash from selling out the other stuff. And like her company never asked about it. Nothing. Like it's just insane where there's some write-offs for things like that.
Yeah. All
Anyway.
right. I was asked to get I was asked to get a mannequin for my boss's murder trial opening statement tomorrow. I was like, what? A mannequin by tomorrow. I don't even live in a major city where these might be available to buy. Thankfully, I used my amazing admin network, and by 5 p.m. the night before, we had a mannequin for his opening statements. Oh my word.
Okay, where would you get a mannequin from? Like I
I
do
don't
live in a
know.
major city and I have absolutely no idea where you would
Maybe like
buy
a
a
like a
mannequin.
sewing, like a craft type. I don't know.
I would have no, and surely like court places have these kind of props. I don't know. That's
Legal system is
weird.
in shambles.
That's weird. Yeah, I wouldn't know where to go for that. So well done for you for reaching out to your admin network and they're coming in to save the day. Okay. One of my executives literally used to bait. Oh, sorry. One of my executives literally used me as bait to get staff into the office. He called up the HR manager who was out for work and told her that I was crying incessantly for unknown reasons. Concerned, the HR manager dropped what she was doing and rushed back to the office. You can only imagine how annoyed she was to find me not crying or upset, and somehow I copped the blame for the encounter, even though I was the one being used. I think I would actually speak up about that. I think I would actually be like, no, I'm I I wasn't upset. I didn't call you. I think I would actually be like, no, I'm not taking the fall for that. If you want
No,
people back in the office, you're going to have to tell them you want them back in the office, but you can't say that I am upset. That's like crying wolf. Like, what if I'm
that's
actually
wild.
upset and something happens that, especially HR, is just going to turn their back on you and be like, oh, here we go. It's another cry for help. Like, I think I'd speak up about that one.
Oh my God. Let's see. I opened the mail for my executive. One day, I found a death threat for my boss. I reported it through the proper procedures, and he proceeded to text me not long after and asked me to frame it for him.
I, I'm only laughing because what a narcissistic thing to do. Like, you've been sent a death threat and you say, frame it. Like, seriously?
I think we
I
can
bet you
all
that was
agree
a.
here that the CEOs are the
That's.
problem.
I
There's
mean,
one link in all of this.
don't say it. Don't say it. For those of you on YouTube, you can see Jessica holding it back. Um, but that rings true of a story that we had at Channel 9 back in the days when anthrax was being sent around to offices, and we had a package
Those were
sent
the
to the
days.
office. Those were the days. And we obviously a media company got sent a package and it had white powder in it, and I opened it, and I remember seeing it and just like closing it straight away and then being like, uh,
Candace, you're the person who, if they got bit by the zombie, wouldn't tell people. Oh my God.
no, I just didn't know what to do or whether I should like move or anything. So I just stood there, and then I
Just
remember
pictured
the
you hiding there
CEO,
or something.
the CFO came out, was like, "What's wrong?" And I was just like, "There's a there's a there's an envelope in my hand and it has white powder in it." He's like, "Oh God!" And I'm like, "What do I do?" And he's like, "I don't know." I'm like, "Ring security, find out what we do." And thankfully, it was just us two up there as well. And then,
Oh
so
my God.
security came up, and then they came up with like a trash can, and they had to put it in the trash can, and then it got taken outside, and then police were called, and it was all a big deal. I had to stand outside in case I had been infected. It was baby powder, but still. And thankfully, it was like they were smart enough to put it in another plastic container, like it was like a clippy bag with it. So, if you were confused, it did look a little like cocaine.
Hey, Candace, how do you know what cocaine looks like?
I've seen on the American shows.
On the American shows, yeah.
CSI.
Oh Lord. Wait, I think the next one is yours. Okay, I was gonna do it and then I realized it's yours. Okay.
I can relate to this one as well. I committed fraud almost every day, signing checks for my executive because he couldn't be bothered. I can still do his signature perfectly today. I didn't commit fraud, but I did have to sign books for someone once because their hand got tired and they had to run off to a media interview. So I had to continue signing the books. So if you got one of those books, you're welcome.
Calls of service. Oh Lord. Okay. All right. My exec went to London for a business trip. I got a text saying, I left my coat in a black cab. Can you call and have it delivered to the hotel? Needless to say, the coat was never found. I was covering for the CEO's assistant while she was on leave.
Oh, I think that's
The
the
C
second one.
what?
Yeah, that's the second one.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. So just read that one again as a separate one.
All right. So then there's a second one. That was I was covering for the CEO's assistant while she was on leave. The CEO requested that I call the White House and request a letter from the President of the United States wishing his mother a happy 90th birthday the coming Saturday. She was a Holocaust survivor and he wanted the president to acknowledge that in the said birthday letter. I did what I was asked and made endless calls to anyone I could reach. Surprise, I was not able to get a letter for him on such short notice, and he was not happy with me, like it was my fault. Y'all just use ChatGPT. Just have ChatGPT write a letter from the president. It's fine.
As if Nana would know. I mean, pop that seal on a piece of paper
Okay,
and there you go.
let's be real here. Nana probably hates the president, okay?
Probably. Probably. And I don't know that on her 90th birthday she wants to be reminded of the Holocaust either. Oh God. I can't believe
Mm.
people ask their assistants. Yes, I can believe it. Yes, I can believe it. But going back to the black cab one, my mum came over for my 21st birthday when I lived over there the first time. And she presented me with a ring from my nan. And it was this
Oh.
gorgeous little ring, and it had a little pearl on it. And it had a little note in it saying, "This was your mum's first engagement ring." So she was engaged to someone else before she married my dad. And I was so touched, and I was just, oh, and then mum and I were playing with our rings, and we are putting on and off, and we got out of the cab, and I had left the ring in the black cab, never to be seen again. As soon as it drove off, like I was just like, oh my God. And like it hit me like, oh, it was just the worst feeling in the world. And like, if for anyone that hasn't been to London, there is black cabs everywhere. Like if you like, you will never find it again. It's kind of like New York taxis, yeah. Like you won't know which taxi is yours. It's like, and yeah. So hopefully someone treasures my ring. I found it in the back of the cab and is wearing it and giving it a good life. But oh, I remember just feeling so sick about that. So yes, if you do leave something in the back of a black cab, just know you've lost it forever, unless you are the luckiest person in the world. Okay, this one I agree with. my exec berated me for something he failed to do that I followed him up on twice about. He proceeded to call me incompetent in front of all of my peers. So I let him walk into the board meeting with his zipper down. Well done. And
That
yes,
is what we
that
call
that is
karma.
great revenge. Just silent great revenge. Where you can just be like, "Yep,
The most-
and now look at you, idiot."
Oh, that's good. All right. My exec made me lie and get the COVID vaccine when people with real disabilities still hadn't received theirs. She made me lie to medical professionals, doctors, and security. I felt like a criminal. Ah,
Oh, that's next level. Like, that's mean. Can you imagine the pressure that the admin felt, that they felt that they had to do that? Especially, like, if they had someone in their family that had, you know, actual disabilities and couldn't get access to the vaccine, and yet because their exec was of higher powers, they were pushed in front to get theirs. Like, oh God, I just remember that time when people were cutting the line for vaccines and you were absolutely shamed for it, rightfully so, um, because you shouldn't have been accessing it before people with breathing difficulties and actual issues needed it. But let's never go through that again. All right, well, thank you for sending those stories through. That's just a little selection of just some of the horror stories that admins go through. So please have some respect for us. Don't ask us to do these horrible tasks. All right, now let's end it on a really cool note about Jessica's new course. I'll be
oh my
honest,
God.
I didn't know if you were going to get this through before we ended the
I
podcast. So I want to say
I
I'm
didn't know.
so, so, so super proud of you. So proud of
Thank
you. I know
you.
how hard this was. I
Ugh.
know this was something you really wanted to tick off your list and be able to provide to the admin professionals globally. So, yay, you. Tell us all about it.
Thank you. Yeah, so I was really struggling, as you know, because you have to listen to me talk about it all the time. But I was really like, how do I make this a valuable course, but also do something like kind of unique? Because I have seen a few other courses that have come out and like they do talk about like no code automations. And it seems to be like basically just email filtering is what they mean when they say email no code automation. And I don't feel like that's new or unique. Like I don't think most of us are like surprised to know that there's like email filtering available. Um so I really kind of wanted to focus on just ChatGPT primarily because they do have the free version that most of us can access if your company is like not a total tight one, like totally boring. So I had this idea of like, okay, how do we make it, you know, worthwhile? So it's like first we're going to talk about like how do you build prompts, and then second week is, or sorry, actually it's going to be 3 days: a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, November 6th, 8th, and 10th, and an hour and a half each class. And like I said, as we'll talk about, the second project will be how to make an EA manual or an executive assistant manual. Because something that I often hear from other admins is like they don't really have like a guide and they don't have like a way to like offboard their role, even if somebody wanted to like just cover for them for vacation. So
Yep.
by using, some different prompts to like get like a different idea of like the different roles that they're doing, we'll be able to build an EA manual that they can like use going forward. And I think that would be really valuable for them to use. And yeah, and like I said, it was a pain to get out. It was really hard to take that knowledge and like put it into like a syllabus format. I even struggled because I think I was like missing the word syllabus for so long of like what I was trying to like put together. And I started working with a program called Maven, and it's a
Yep.
pretty newer course company.
Mhm.
And there's not a ton of ChatGPT. This is the first like ChatGPT for admins or AI for admins course like on that platform. And yeah, it's gonna be really cool. November, so there'll be a little bit of time before or after this episode comes out. You can find out about it. Any way that you can contact me, my website, my LinkedIn, my TikTok, my Instagram, all the whole shebang, and or just email me at jessica@techsavvyassistant.com, and we'll put in the show links as well, so you can register if you're inclined.
It's so exciting. And I think one of the things about it that's so exciting is, as you just said, this doesn't exist in the marketplace yet. This is completely new content. So it's not being rehashed. It's not something that's out there being regurgitated in conferences and training seminars. This is completely new technology content. And it is for admins. So it's specifically tailored for us, for our profession. So it's actually I've had a read of the course info, and it's not just for admins. Other people can use it as well. Like it's 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 awesome, and I'm so proud of you for getting it out. I'm
Thank
just
you.
so happy for you, and I'm going to shout it from the rooftops so that everybody knows about it. So please share it with your community as well. Um, and yeah, we can't wait to hear from you guys. As I said, we would love to get your feedback on everything, on what we're doing, on this podcast, on the courses, everything. Like feedback, the only way we know whether we're doing things and going in the right direction is if we get your feedback. So please reach out. We're on all the channels. We always put them in the show notes. Plus, we're all over all the social channels, LinkedIn, everything. So reach out. But that is it. We're wrapping up on season 1 of the Future Focused Admin. So if you are heading into the summer, it's awesome. Summer is coming. If you're heading into the winter, get your cozies. Do you have hoodies there? It's like
Yeah,
a wearable blanket.
like a
Yeah,
giant blanket hoodie.
yeah,
Yeah.
get your hoodie
Do,
out.
I don't own one. I'll have to get one for my for
I think
winter.
so. I think so. We can even like film an episode in hoodies. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for your support. We really do appreciate it. And be good, be kind, and take care of yourselves. And we'll see you soon.
Farewell.